Hello and welcome to another episode of Launch Legends. Today we're joined by Rytis of Omnisend. Omnisend only started in 2014 in a very competitive market. However, this year they're projected to do $13 million in annual recurring revenue. They've got 60,000 plus customers and they're getting about 7,000 signups every single month. So how did they do that? Rytis talks about how in the first 24 months, they did not really care about revenue. They only focused on working very closely with the customers to build the right product. So much so that even if they got one bad review from a customer, they would spend days working with them to ensure their problem is resolved. Rytis also talks about how integrating with complementary marketplaces and products help them generate traction in the beginning. Before we continue, if you are listening to this on a podcast, please rate and leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, rate, and leave a review. Hey, Rytis, thank you very much for being on the show. So I know you guys are doing you projected to do $13.5 million in annual recurring revenue. You've got over 60,000 customers. More importantly, you guys are bootstrapped, and you only started in 2014. So first of all, I'd like to know who you are and why you started Omnisend. So let's talk about that.
Hey, Ahmad. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me into your show. Great pleasure to talk to you. And for the listeners, we really had a very nice lighting conversation before we officially started the podcast. So I really enjoy the mood already. So thanks for inviting. And getting to the question is. We have started, as you said correctly, that Omnisend is now, we started the product in 6 years ago in 2014. And the reason was, it was a spin-off from digital marketing agents. Probably that's an important thing. It's, I would say, three important things here. One was we were serving customers that basically developing websites, developing Facebook applications. Those were super popular, doing digital marketing for our customers, etc., selling human hours. So, and that was the beginning. What was, I would say, very important for the success of Omnisend, as we had the core of the team, and still we have some people in the team currently, which were already together with myself for 7 years working together. So we knew each other before that, which is very, very, very important at the very beginning, that the team is not being built from scratch. There is trust, there is understanding, we have already been bonded, some of us, the core of the team, which is absolutely important. So it's the first thing. Second thing is the reason why did we started this was that selling human hours and selling services is great, but that's pretty local and pretty unpredictable. Each time you have to fight for a new project, etc., tenders, and you're not that sure of how well will you be doing in 6 months and 12 months if you don't have enough of long-term contracts. And kind of SaaS, software as a service business, was something which I really found very interesting as a business model. Then you have recurring revenue, the customers are paying you, and if you provide good quality service, if your customers are happy, they stay for really long. And what apparently happened, that what we see from our customer base, that if customers stay long with us, they have a tendency to grow, which is absolutely fascinating. That those customers who have joined and joined us 24 months ago, now they're 3 times bigger than they were at the very beginning. So that's very, very fascinating, because our growth of our customers means growth of ours, which is great. And the second thing, which is even more important, that shows that we help to create the value for them, for their businesses, and they grow. And we are one of the reasons why they grow. That's really great feeling. Yeah, and I would say third important probably thing about the start. So my co-founders were two main co-founders on Omnisend. He actually used to be my customer once I was running an agency. So that was, again, very, very good, I would say, a thing and decision we both made. And we because we started not as like peer buddies or like personal relationship, but we kind of tested how do we manage to work together in like, business provider and customer way. So that I believe, which kind of brought a lot of professionalism into our relationship, which is a great thing up until today.
Right. So let's talk about Omnisend. Why did you even start the product? Let's talk about what Omnisend is, and I know it's a very, very competitive market. Why did you decide to get into it?
Oh yeah, the market is like super competitive. Yeah. So Omnisend is omni-channel marketing automation solution for those who sell online. So for those who run online stores, have online businesses, really help to retain customers, to communicate with existing customer base. How do we do? So few most important things. First thing, we analyze a lot of data. We synchronize with your online store. We analyze your customers' behavior. And based on that, you can automate your marketing campaigns. You can automate communication with your customers in different channels. So we have email, we have text messages, SMS, we have Facebook Messenger, and we have ability to synchronize with your Google and Facebook ads in order to run either retargeting campaigns or lookalike campaigns to acquire new customers. Yeah, so basically that's the product. Replacements for MailChimps of the world, generic email service providers. If you are selling online and you really want to better retain your customers, increase lifetime value of your customer. And yes, you are right. That was already very competitive market once we have started Omnisend. And why did we do that? Back in the day, 6 years ago, the situation was that there were generic email service providers, just sending bulk email campaigns, email blasts, how they call it, and no segmentation, no data-driven communication with your customers. On the other hand, there were kind of Amazons of the world, like really huge giant corporations, modern corporations, which were utilizing a lot of data at the same time. And everybody was seeing, oh, come on, I received an email from Amazon and it's with a product which I have been browsing like 1 week ago. And that's so amazing, And there were no solution to really bring those Amazon level sophisticated communication tools to small and medium markets. So that was our main vision and main goal, that we have to bring what is like capabilities of large companies, simplify it and bring it to small and medium-sized businesses. And that's how we kind of, we saw that's the potentially the niche, although you are technically in the same email marketing space, but you have a really unique proposition for very unique group of customers, those who are selling online. Yeah, so that's kind of where we saw that value potentially could be.
So I would imagine that product must have evolved over time. Let's talk about when you first started developing the product until your first MVP launch. How long did that take, and how big was the team on that?
We were 8 at that time. So yeah, as an agency, we're bigger, but then once we kind of focused on this, we're still, and like for initial 2 years, we were still running agency business a little bit to fund investments into product, into Omnisend. And we were developing. So I would say it took us around like 6 months before the first MVP launch. That was really, really MVP level solution. And I remember myself like looking at, we have redesigned and like rebuild the structure and everything, like, I don't know, 2 years or like 2.5 years after the launch. And then I was looking retrospectively to our first version. I didn't know why anyone used and why some of them paid for that.
So,
but
that's the whole point of an MVP, right? Where it's if your customers hate it, that's fine, because you have to just put it there to the customers.
But that's probably one of the kind of great lessons I have learned, or we as a company have learned. So really, and we continue like doing the same up until today. So if we're introducing new feature, we usually launch the MVP of it. If we see that there is an adoption and more more requests and technically more hate you get from your customers about that specific feature or capability shows that there is a need of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there is no feedback, so check the stats. Usually no one is using it. And that means that you made a wrong guess and nobody actually needs this.
Got it. So whilst you were developing the MVP, were you guys working with any customers at all at that point, or you were just focused on developing?
Yeah, sure. So, but in our case, we as an agency were serving some e-commerce stores as well. So those were our first customers with whom we tested the product, and then that's how do you say. And I would advise for everyone who's building MVP, so find one or two, if it's B2B solution, if it's B2C, so maybe 100, I don't know how many customers do you need to really test it. But really, it's very good to have, let's call it launch partners, someone who would really give you a feedback on the spot, whose real problem you will be solving before you launch even an MVP. Not a theoretical one, but okay, I have a theory, I find a first partner, and I start implementing there and checking the use cases. Do I really cover the needs of in our case, e-commerce stores? So we had a couple of those stores, and that was helpful.
Your definition of launch partners is someone who's your ideal customer, who's going to work with you to really refine the requirements and the product, and who's actually going to use it.
Yeah, that would be great. Again, the definition of ideal customer is really changing. At least, like from our experience, it's kind of constantly changing. As in our case, we have started working with really like micro to small businesses, and now our ideal customer profile is like larger, mid-sized customer, which already is migrating from generic email service providers. And instead of just launching a business, we still keep serving those who are just launching online businesses, and we keep product like layers. And the first layer, it has to be really like the interface is very like easy to use and easy to understand. The second layer is like the settings, which has to be powerful, but they are a bit hidden for power users. But you don't just, learning curve has to be as flat as you could have it. So that's at least our point of view is towards a product building. And there's a third layer, is like API level, which is like provides a lot of flexibility for anyone to build and customize if they're willing to. Yeah. So in our case, like what is ideal customer understanding has changed in the past 6 years, but yeah, for sure, that's the best if you could find what you define as your ideal customer for the launch time, for the very beginning. So pick one or two and just work with them.
Great. So when you launched the MVP, first of all, how did you launch? Did you have a massive event or something, or you just gave it to a bunch of few customers or something?
Yep. So that was the second. Yeah. No massive event, and the market. Our market is global. We have at least one paying customer coming from 130 countries worldwide. So it's when you're a startup, you have no capacity to do a big launch. It's one thing. And what really kind of worked for us from the very beginning, and we kind of just made a mathematical exercise and analyzed what are e-commerce platforms, because we understood, okay, we will be serving e-commerce customers. How does this market operate? So initially, to have an online store, you're going to choose your e-commerce platform. It's going to be like Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, WooCommerce, PrestaShop, you name it. Like, again, quite huge competition then, huge variety of e-commerce platforms. So we have analyzed the data of those and popularity and growth trends of those platforms. It was the first exercise, and the second exercise we did was kind of openness of their ecosystem. Who does have an API? How easy is it to integrate? How easy is it to support, etc., etc. And we basically made integrations with key players in the market. So at that time, there was Ticktail. I'm not sure if you have heard about that.
Yes.
That was
heat maps and. Are we talking?
No. Ticktail. That was an e-commerce platform with like super easy to use. Unfortunately, they failed and finally has been acquired by Shopify. But at that time, they were really kind of hot everybody will. Oh, sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
I'm sorry. Just a second. Yep, it's the beauty of Bluetooth as two devices are being connected to the same earbuds. Yeah, sorry, have disconnected it. So, so like basically, so Tictail was the first integration, Shopify was the second, then BigCommerce, Magento, WooCommerce, etc., etc. So we made integrations with those e-commerce platforms, and that's how we start acquiring our first customers through our app stores.
Great. Okay. So let's talk about that. That's a great strategy where you actually integrated with the ecosystems, with the different marketplaces, rather than going through your typical paid channels or your typical content marketing channel. That's a great strategy, and that's obviously worked for you. When you started integrating, what was the deal? Did you reach out to the partner and say, "Look, hey, we're going to do this integration. In return, can you please promote us so we can get some users?" Or they started coming organically?
So it was kind of at that stage, Shopify was just a rather small company compared to what they are now, and like BigCommerce was the same, and Magento was big as well. WooCommerce was still independent, not owned by our Automatic and WordPress, and so Marmite was a bit different, but they had their open ecosystems, and you can just read it. Documentation and then build this integration. So there was no need to reach out to them. But of course, once the technical integration was live, we reached out to them and asked, so what are the opportunities here in this ecosystem? Can you promote us? Is it pay to play game, or is it just, you have to prove something? And the rules were different in different ecosystems. So someone requested you to pay and buy the license. Someone just said, okay, if you can get, let's say, 10 customers, we're going to evaluate you 5 stars, we're going to promote you somewhere. Okay, so prove that you're a quality solution, good quality solution, and there's a need of solutions as yours in the market, and we're going to help you to grow, because if you grow, it means our customers get more value, and we're happy about that as well. Yeah, so that was back in the days. Today, those ecosystems are much more mature, especially I think e-commerce space. But I believe, you can have a lot of different ideas, and maybe ecosystems which you can integrate not that mature yet. So maybe it's easier to communicate. So now it's more kind of clear rules, and usually it's pay to play game, more pay to play than just organic nowadays. So you can be certified, you can receive some badges, and can be included in some collections, or even paid ads, etc., etc. Yeah, so we work. And usually, so now we pay. At that time, we just asked to be promoted, to be somewhere represented, etc.
Right. Let's go back. So let's talk about some numbers. So the first 12 months of Omnisense existence, how many integrations did you do?
I believe we did initially 8 integrations, but after 12 or 16, 18 months, we have discontinued some of them because it was just too much hassle to support so many integrations. So what we did 8 integrations, get rid of 5, narrow down to 3. And then after some time, now we have much more integrations as well.
So, first 12 months, how many signups did those integrations bring? I know it's a very hard question.
Yeah,
I don't know, but vaguely, percentage-wise, how many signups did that bring out of the whole?
From all the signups, I would say that was more or less close to 100%.
Ooh.
Yeah. So initially, that was really a kickstart. The integrations was initially sole acquisition channel for us. Now it's different. It's much more diverse. But from the beginning, that was with initial acquisition was just basically driven by those integrations and those app stores.
That's very interesting, actually, because that's not a strategy that's been touted very much, where integrate with other partners in the complementary space. Right.
And
Okay.
What is very important. I mean, those integrations. It's one thing is the kind of technical. Second, where you can like have a relationship with a platform and with a company and ask to be promoted, etc. And usually, if there is an open app store, there is a social aspect as well, and like evaluation. Your customers, which try out your product, etc., they leave reviews to you, etc. So what we really were working hard, and up until today, we were working hard to really get good reviews. So have a good product, provide a world-class service, and even if something is not going well with your product, so just invest human hours to convert this unhappy customer into happy customer. So if we just got 1 star, we spend hours and hours to please this customer and to really to solve his or her problems, and then ask, could you please remove this 1 star and maybe replace a 5 star, or that's okay, or that just remove 3 stars, 4 stars. But so we kind of were over investing into I would say customer support, because the product MVP is never ideal. But what you can do what not scales, and you can just spend more hours, human hours, to really provide a world-class support and convert even unhappy customers into happy customers just because of a personal relationship.
Great. So how much revenue were you guys doing in the first 12 months?
I don't remember exactly in initial 12 months, but after 24 months, our revenue was monthly around $30,000.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it took us. Yeah. So basically, it took us like 24 months to understand our business model. So although we kind of got quite decent traction, but since the launch, we had freemium model. And we have freemium model now. So we have free version, which is pretty generous for everyone who just started his business. So it's more than enough of what we provide in the free plan. But at that time, we kind of, that took us quite a few months to really calibrate what to provide for free and for what to ask to pay. And so we had a good traction. We had quite good usage, but very few paying customers for 24 months. And it took us really some time to understand how and to what to build your customers.
So in terms of growth, in the second year, from month 13 to month 24, leads were coming through the integration partners. What else did you try, which was a groundbreaking thing for you?
Yeah, so I would say since we really understood what is the business model and how to start earning money, we were really relying on integrations already and communities. And after so 13 to 24, nothing new in go-to-market. Just basically all the focus in understanding how to create value for our customers, how to create actually monetizable customer value. Value big enough for your customers to pay to you. So that was kind of complete focus on product and on pricing.
That's great.
And only after month 24, I would say, then we finally understood, okay, we have a product market fit. Now we have a business model. We see that it starts working and we really start earning some money and it's growing month over month. So only then we start investing more into go-to-market and thinking about go-to-market and open new channels.
So back to month 13, you said you focused on the product heavily. That's probably the best thing to do until month 24 and afterwards. And you said you were really focused on providing value to the customer and really reaching that product market fit. What does that look like? What did that look like for you?
It was talking to our customers. Recording your customers' behavior. There are tools which you can record. How do we browse? Where do we click? What do we do? Analyze data. What do we send? Emails? How many emails? Why do we start the campaign? Like composing the campaign but not sending a campaign. What happens? Etc. So a lot of analysis, and both like quantitative and qualitative, talking to our customers. So why do you think so? How do you do? Because that's a paradox. Sometimes, you have to combine those two things because like quantitative shows you something, and qualitative people are just too, maybe, I don't know, too good to you, don't want to insult you or something, and they lie a bit to you, like sweet lies, talking sweet lies. No, I like everything is fine, etc., etc. Or vice versa, someone can be rude and say, "Oh, you are too expensive." But come on, you paid us like $10. Is it really too much or something? So what is the real reason of us being too expensive? The real reason is that we didn't drive you any sale. You earned $0 while paying $10. Of course, it's too expensive for that return on investment, Yeah. So it's not about like the price, it's all about the value we're providing. But if we have drove you like 3,000 of revenue, would we be too expensive paying 300 instead of bucks? Of course, no. So sometimes so you have to combine those two things, like data analysis and really interviews and then conversation with your customers.
Did you have a certain set of interviews you were doing every week, or they were just quite random?
It was like trying as much as we can. And at that time I was living in London, so really trying to meet in person as well, which is very valuable. Just again, once you work, at least from our experience, once you work to like micro and small business, people not willing to meet you that much, and it's different once you work with larger companies because they have proper offices, they have meeting rooms, they have more time. Or like they have dedicated, in our case, marketing managers, so they can dedicate more time to talk to you because they just have more time. And if you are a small business owner, so usually you are working, your warehouse is one meter away from your bed. You work from home. You work somewhere, maybe in suburban areas. You have so many like spinning plates at the same time. You just don't want to waste any minutes to provide even a feedback, even to a product which you in general like. So that's a bit different. So again, one of the tips, I know it cost, but what we found out, so basically bribing your customers for the feedback time, it's what works. I mean, right. Look, just $50 or 50 pounds, etc., euros, Amazon coupon. If you spend 30 minutes and answering questions about the product, it works.
I would imagine that would probably give you bad customers, people who are just there to.
No, but it's just the dynamics is not that you are looking that you are paying in advance. You already have a customer. It's how to encourage your existing customers to talk to you. Because if you use your self-service tool, they just register online, they create an account, they start using, and they just don't want to talk to you. I mean, they're comfortable in using in a self-service mode. They don't want to have a human touch. And so that's a way how you can invite them to a call. So they're already your existing customers. You find that, okay, maybe their use case is interesting. Maybe you have your own reasons why you want to talk to that particular customer because they are somehow in the group to which you're willing to talk. And then you just really reach out and say, okay, let's exchange $50 or $100 in exchange of 30 minutes of your time.
Great.
Yeah, so, it's not related to their usage. I mean, they're already using you.
Great. So Rytis, month 24, you were doing $30,000 per month in revenue.
Yeah.
And you guys are projected to do $13.5 million now. What happened, man? What worked?
So I would say constantly listening to your customers and really building what they want. It's a first thing. Second thing, of course, is luck as well. So I'm a strong believer that you have to work smart and hard, and then you need luck on top. So e-commerce, we just picked the right market to be, the right market to serve, and e-commerce is booming globally. It's growing. Platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, Shopify just skyrocketed. BigCommerce just IPO'd yesterday. We are recording. So one day before we're recording, we have IPO'd, so public company, etc. WooCommerce was acquired by Automatic, and WordPress has been like promoted a lot, etc. So the market segment itself, like really exploded. And even in the COVID situation, we were super lucky, one of those which were not impacted, or maybe impacted in a positive way, because a lot of our customers grew. A lot of new stores has been launched in this lockdown situation, just because the physical stores were closed and people were looking at ways to still continue their business, and they went online. So not sure if it's luck, if it's wisdom, not sure. I would say it's probably luck. I mean, we could equally choose another direction. So that's a combination of luck, working hard and smart, and being lucky a bit. So.
Let me ask you this: what percentage of signups come through those integration partners right now?
Yeah, so it's still kind of it's not that. So I would say like initial 24 months, were just app stores where the revenue or the leads were coming from. Currently, what happens is that we still operate in those ecosystems. We just embedded ourselves much deeper into those ecosystems. What do I mean by that? Being an app store is not enough. I mean, to grow your traffic. So, but there are bloggers who write specifically about Shopify, about Magento. There are conferences, there are podcasts, there are communities, there are other third-party integrations who are not competing, who are complementary solutions, etc. And you start working with them. There are agencies, freelancers who work with those platforms, who facilitate e-commerce, who facilitate specific platforms, Magento's, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, etc. So, building partnership relationships, building other integrations within an ecosystem, attending events, sponsoring. We are kind of lucky and big enough to be able to sponsor events, attending podcasts, speaking on stage on conferences, etc., etc. So it's where you embed yourself really deep into the ecosystem. And if someone is running a store on Shopify, on BigCommerce, on WooCommerce, I understand it's one of kind of obvious choices. Of course we have competitors, but they're choosing from 1, 2, 3 solutions. So that's so I'm not sure if I have kind of addressed fully a question. So still, vast majority of our business are coming from those ecosystems. It's just not app stores. And if you just launch your app in the app store and you expect to grow to like millions of revenue, so it will not work.
Great. I think what you're saying is that you obviously integrated with those app stores, but then you also talk to the users of those customers. You basically partnered up with the influencers in that space, in that ecosystem. And you just basically made sure that you were seen everywhere and people are there listening to you and using your product. But did you try anything traditional like content marketing or advertising?
Yeah, so like content marketing, SEO is big for us. Again, it's more targeted. That's probably like a difference, and it's one of the lessons which I have kind of personally learned, that we called it our strategy targeted brand awareness. It's one thing when I just publish content on my blog, and another thing is once I publish good quality content, which is maybe kind of interesting for a narrow audience, e-commerce in our case, but it's really good quality, like researches, data-driven, like statistical, like white papers or infographics. It worked for us so super well. Like, we have been quoted by Forbes, by PayPal. I mean, very like super high authority websites, which usually to buy the link on search, it's going to cost you thousands and thousands. But once you're providing very valuable information for your specific target niche, not like going super broad, that's where you start getting value. And again, you can write posts, and we're doing this on your own blog, but you can find influencers in the ecosystem you're operating, and you can suggest, okay, I will really provide good quality content, not a shitty piece somehow. So would you publish it? I can even sometimes pay initially, and like for first time you pay, for second time you see, okay, you're providing really good quality content, so I would publish it for free because I my readers love it. So it's how do you say, content marketing? Does it work for us? Yes, a lot. Is it? Has my understanding, at least my personal understanding about what content marketing is, has it changed in the past like 4 or 3 years? Yes, it has a lot. That just publishing content on your blog, it's not enough. It's about seeding content, about content exchanging, providing really good quality content pieces, etc. Those things are very important.
The Rytis, I always ask this question: if you were to start again, would you do anything different?
No.
Right. Okay. And if someone's listening to this and they're just starting out like you did many years ago, what advice would you give them?
Just do it. But it's a commercial stuff. It's a slogan of Nike, but at the same time, it's probably the best motivational quote for me. Just do it. People sometimes are thinking too much instead of just launching. Start doing and then tweaking, then constantly improving, and just start your first, make a first step today, because there will be no better day than today. And then tweak things. Get the feedback from your customers. So easy nowadays to do that, etc. And people sometimes are planning too much and implementing too late. Then they already burned out while planning or while building a perfect solution before it's being launched. So it's better to launch an MVP, the shitty version of your future good solution, and then start improving from that.
I think that's great. And one great thing you said, that it's a very slow progress. It's a very slow process where it's going to take a while, where instead of chasing big money, you focus on the product and making sure that you had product market fit in the first 2 years. And you make it sound almost very easy. 24 months is a very long stretch, but you really focus on the product. Only when you realize what the product should be for your market, that's when you started to scale. And you went from there to 13.5 million in revenue. That's huge. But you really had to grind in the beginning, and eventually you grew.
Yeah. And it's crawl, walk, run. At least if you're bootstrapped. If you're funded, so maybe it's a different playbook. I don't understand this playbook. I have never done like very well funded venture. So so it's different. Yeah, you have no time for crawling or walking. You have start running immediately. But if you are going in a bootstrap way, and what is very important, so I completely agree to what you just said. So nailing the product, finding nailing product market fit, that is very important. At the same time, what is important, not to do that in the laboratory. That means that you have to bring your product into the real life, not to be nailing it into the artificial environment. Then, let's say we are two co-founders, we just sit by our laptops, desktops, and we are just discussing between each other and building an ideal solution. No, it's not. So what is very important, bring it to the market as soon as you can, and then based on the market feedback, nail it. That's the only way to nail. Doesn't matter how expert you are in any field, you are nowhere as good as crowd wisdom and the needs of your real customers. So that, I would say, that is very important, because too many companies and too many startups trying to nail their product in, as they call it, in a laboratory, not bringing it to the market.
Great. Rytis, thank you very much for being on the show. It was great, and good luck for the future, and I hope to see you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting. Pleasure to talk to you. Bye.